Hi everyone. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is Earth spheres. So what that encompasses is the different layers of the Earth and plate tectonics. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here. So if we take a look, different spheres function. So the Earth can be divided into spheres that are defined according to their location and function. So some of the things that we've already talked about here is our atmosphere. So with our atmosphere, we also talked a little bit about our hydrosphere with the water cycle and ocean currents. And what we're going to focus on today is mostly our geosphere. So within our geosphere, we're going to see our different divisions of the Earth. So if we look here, starting at all the way at the top, we have our crust. Going in from there, we have a lithosphere. This red strip right here is our Athenosphere. Then we see our upper mantle, our lower mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. So those are the different spheres that we are going to see here. So Earth as a system, I'm sure we've all heard of the different layers of our Earth, the crust, mantle, and inner core and outer core. That all makes up our geosphere. So our geosphere is going to be from the very top of our planet, the very outer edge, which is our crust, all the way to our core here, the center of our core. And if we look, we can see in this image right here that our atmosphere is also combined on everything that goes above the crust of our Earth, which includes our biosphere and our hydrosphere. So let's take a look at the composition of the Earth. So scientists divide our Earth up into 3 layers, ones that you've definitely heard before, so the crust, the mantle, and the core. So these 3 layers are made up of progressively denser material going towards the center of the Earth. So our core is going to be our most dense material, and then it gets less dense as we move outside to what we see, which is our crust. So our crust is a thin layer of thin and solid outermost layer of the Earth that is above our mantle. So our crust tends to be very rocky. So our thinnest layer also makes up less than 1% of the entire planet's mass. So everything that we see on our crust is less than 1% of our Earth's mass. It's about 5 kilometers to 8 kilometers thick. Beneath oceans, we can see 20 to 70 beneath continents. So under our oceans, we have a thinner crust. Under our continents, you're going to see a lot thicker of a crust. So it's going to vary between those 2 things. Our mantle is the next layer. So it's a layer of rock between Earth's crust and core. We also see some molten, very, very hot things between. So it's made up of rocks that have a medium density, and it makes up about 64% of the Earth's mass. So it's a very thick layer, as you can see. And then our last part here is our core. And our core is the central part of the Earth, below the mantle, right in the center, and it has the densest elements found there. So if we take a look at the structure of the Earth can be divided into 5 layers based on physical properties of each layer. So if we look at the different physical properties, our lithosphere is going to be a solid outer layer of the Earth that consists of the crust and a rigid upper part of our mantle. It is cool and is about 15 to 300 kilometers thick And it's also divided into these huge plates called tectonic plates. We're going to talk a lot about those tectonic plates. So our lithosphere makes up our different tectonic plates. It's a cool, very solid layer of our Earth here. Our next layer here is going to be the Athenosphere. So it is a solid and pliable layer of the mantle beneath the lithosphere. So going inner towards the Earth here, it's made up of mantle rock, and it flows slowly, so it allows the tectonic plates to move on top of it. So it is a solid, but there is some movement underneath in our Athenosphere, which is going to allow plate tectonics to move, which is going to be really, really important when we talk about the differences in importance of that movement that we see on Earth. So beneath the Athenosphere is the Mesosphere, and it's the lower part of our mantle. Our outer core is a dense liquid layer. So here's a big difference here. We have a liquid layer in our outer core. And at the center of the Earth, there's a dense solid inner core, which is mostly made up of these two elements here, iron and nickel. The temperature in our inner core is very, very high. We can see it around 4,000 or 4,500 degrees Celsius. And because it's solid, we see a lot of pressure in the center of our Earth here. So the inner core and outer core make up about 1/3 of Earth's mass. So if we take a look here, we can see our crust, very thin here. Our lithosphere is going to contain that crust and part of our upper mantle. Remember, this is going to make up our plate tectonics. So if we look at our next part, our mantle is this whole piece right here. Solid, dense materials. Within our mantle, we're going to see part of a lithosphere and the Athenosphere. So our Athenosphere is solid, pliable, and allows that movement. Flows very slowly. Our Mesosphere is the middle sphere, and it's below the Athenosphere. Nothing super special happens here, but we're going to see that there. Our outer core is a shell made of liquid, nickel and iron, and then our inner core, we have a solid nickel and iron. Remember, our core, very high temperatures, and a lot of pressure is going to be found there. So that's where we're going to end here with our Earth layers. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure you reach out and ask.